Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. And as you can see, I have a very special guest. With everything that is coming out, Andrew, I appreciate you making the time. I imagine that you are hot property at the moment.
Well, I mean, it's nice. Yes, I'm not often hot property. No, but it's always nice to come to you. So you are one of my priorities.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, there's been extraordinary revelations today about Andrew and Sarah, and I think we should kick off with that because it's the most recent thing that's come out. I've actually got a slide just so people can see that may not be sort of aware what's happened. Now, you probably won't be able to read that, so I'll just tell everyone very quickly. Prince Andrew asked his taxpayer funded police protection officer to investigate Virginia Giuffre and passed him her date of birth and also her social security number, which I am just, assuming he got from Jeffrey Epstein, but I don't know. Now, this was revealed in a leaked email. Andrew, surely that was a criminal act. He doesn't have the authority to do something like that.
No, I mean, the data protection rules. So that's one thing. I think we now should get the police protection officers who never spoke, who wouldn't speak. I think they need to start speaking because we're now dealing with criminal activity here. I mean, lots of us have been pressing the Metropolitan Police about exactly what they did. They actually did mount an investigation into Andrew because there were several demands by Channel 4, I think by Di Davis, the former head of Royal Security, and indeed by Virginia herself, and they wouldn't answer that. So I think they have questions to answer now. And you're absolutely right. Here was a taxpayer-funded policeman been asked to do this. We've seen a complete cover-up going on for years. I think you mentioned in one of your podcasts the way that the papers on the police protection people at the North Gate were destroyed. I talk about it in the book. So I think this is now opening up into a much wider story of corruption, which should now involve, as I say, the Metropolitan Police and others. It is shocking. I do write about it in the book, actually. I think some of the stuff was taken out, but he and Ghislaine and Epstein brought in a PR firm to try and undermine Virginia Giuffre. They were discussing it the next day after the appearance of the picture. And this puts, clearly shows what a lie he was saying when he didn't know anything about Virginia Giuffre, because here he is discussing it the next day. And I think it calls into question the role of people like Virginia Harvey and what she's been doing the last few years. And I hope that perhaps this will see the end of her. Because and people will stop giving her any publicity, because I mean this is appalling. The way that they've tried to undermine the victims. I think the really exciting thing for me is that some justice seems to be done. People in power seem to be being held to account at last, and some of these victims will see justice, I hope. So I feel very excited actually by the new developments of literally the last 24 hours. I have to take it off to the Mail on Sunday. I mean, they've led the agenda here. They leaked the story on Fergie, showing she had been in touch with Epstein much longer. Same with Andrew. Now the stories today. I think they're all coming from Ghislaine. Ghislaine took a little pile of things just as an insurance policy. And they're beginning to pay off. She's no friend of Fergie's, and I think she's going to be no friend of Andrew's. So I wonder if it's the knowledge that this stuff is coming out and there's more of it that actually occasioned the decision by the palace on Friday. But I don't think it's going to be enough. Without jumping ahead, I'm afraid he's going to have to leave Royal Lodge. He's going to have to lose his title. He's going to have to go into exile. And I think there are grounds for criminal charges to be laid at both of them.
Yes, I completely agree. And I share your sort of optimism about the fact that finally, it's too late for Virginia, but finally some justice seems to be done. But I also feel quite heartbroken by the whole thing because, of course, we're having these extracts from Virginia's book. And I know there's nothing really new as far as Prince Andrew is concerned. But there's a few little extra bits that I noticed, like when Jeffrey Epstein was actually making her arrangement with her more permanent, he showed her a photograph of her little brother going into his school. And she was obviously terrified that the implication was that they would do something to him if she didn't comply. And, it's heartbreaking. a
I
really
agree.
concerning. Yeah, it
And
is.
also, sorry to drop, but also when you see
No.
her being interviewed in shows now, and you realize, what we know now. I mean, the fact she's no longer here, it is very poignant. I mean, she would have, without Virginia Giuffre, we would not be having this whole network exposed. And that monster Epstein, I mean, he's appearing is even worse than we realized. That would not have happened. I mean, she is a real heroine, I think, and it's a shame that she's not seen. All her efforts have actually borne fruit, and what a lovely irony that this posthumous memoir has actually done in the Prince Andrew.
Yes, and also I think it was sort of sad that she didn't get to see your book published because she passed away April, didn't she? And your book came out in August. And I think it would have made such a difference to her because you were so solidly behind her and so solidly providing people on the record that backed up seeing them in the nightclub and seeing Andrew dancing with her. And, there was so much in your book that backed her up.
Yes, it did. I
And
mean, I
yeah,
did approach her, and she never responded. So, I mean, maybe, some time ago when I first started. So, I think maybe she didn't realize or wasn't ready to talk because she clearly
yeah,
talked to lots of people. But anyway,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
shows you the power of books. I think one of the really things that's driven this is not so much my book, but actually the her book coming out has got the palace to really get their act together. Well, semi get their act together, because of course they never really get their act together.
I think you're being very modest, but I will allow you to be. I wanted to talk to you about Ed Perkins, who at the time was Queen Elizabeth II's deputy press secretary. Now, he was informed that Andrew had tasked his personal protection officer to dig up dirt on Virginia. You would think that at that point it was his responsibility to take it to a higher up, absolutely appalled. But I suspect that he was quite heartened and waiting to hear the dirt that they managed to dig up that he could maybe use as deputy press secretary. Does this suggest that the Queen had knowledge of the dirt digging as well?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, Ed Perkins clearly hasn't spoken to anyone, I don't think. Certainly he wouldn't speak to me. And it'll be interesting to see if he now speaks out. But I suspect, as you say, it didn't go any further, that it was all part of what they kept to themselves. But if it did go further and was reported and nothing happened, and there's meant to be systems for things like this, then I think that just backs up some of the stuff I've been saying about the fact that Andrew knew he was protected and he was protected by the Queen. And I think this is the thing that I think people may find hard to accept. I have to say, in Prince Philip's credit, he was very upset, I know, about the Sunninghill sale, and I suspect other things. But the Queen had this complete blind spot and was prepared to basically give Andrew carte blanche. And he exploited that until now, until he's lost his protector. And now it's all coming home to roost.
Yes, it interests me about the possibility of, criminal investigation, more questions being asked, things being opened up in the context of the fact that this indicates that Virginia was quite possibly intimidated. Well, we know in your book that she was. I mean, the ABC interview, for example, was killed, harassed, intimidated. They're sort of flunkies going out and undermining her, saying that she's a liar at every opportunity that they could get. And that sort of would lead me to think that maybe this played a part in her apparent unraveling near the end. Her family believes that she was, she didn't do away with herself. Her family believes that there's something, untoward going on there. Should that be reopened? Should her death be re-examined in the light of these revelations?
Yes, I think they should. We know so little about her death, and the assumption was that was just to sort of respect the family and the dignity, whatever happened. I understand she'd hung herself. But I mean, if they themselves are concerned about what happened, then I think we know so little about what the circumstances of her death and before that, and we have seen a number of mysterious deaths in this story. I've now, having sort of hinted at it in the book, I'm now pretty well. I know that Epstein was killed, and I think I've said publicly I know who did it. I think for legal reasons I can't say, but I've seen FBI files on this. So I think there are lots and lots of investigations should be going on into the whole thing. And I hope maybe as a result of her book and maybe some pressure now finally from Congress that we will begin to see Epstein files opened and investigations reopened. There were, I think, 40 girls prepared to testify at one point. And so if they could be persuaded to come forward, and of course, many of them are now middle-class women with families, and it may be harder. But yes, I mean, we know that Epstein was intimidating people. He would give them NDAs. It was a mixture of patronage and pressure, just exactly the techniques that the royal family used to keep people in line. And so, she may have been driven to suicide, or she may have died in other ways. But I think, yes, there are a lot of big questions about her death. It was very fortunate. I mean, here was a woman, who had her book about to come out. And you would have thought would be living for it. I've talked to friends of hers who said she was a very unlikely person to commit suicide. Now, I know that's not always an explanation, but people, you can sometimes work out who, people who commit suicide have often tried before. They are clearly, but she was clearly very disturbed in those final a few months before she died. And this is a recurrent pattern. I mean, they kind of drive you crazy sometimes until either you do kill yourself, or it looks like there's good reason why you might have done so.
I would like to do another whole program with you on that pattern, because there is just so much that definitely points to a pattern. I think we should do that at a future date. I wanted to bring up about Fergie. So Epstein, we know this from your book that, she was essentially bankrolled by Epstein. He was paying her bills. Came out on the Mail on Sunday. You have said all along that you think she received, up to £2 million from Epstein, not the $15,000 that she claimed. I do have main points. This was saying, Epstein was saying that, she wanted financial support way beyond the £15,000. Like we said, we know that from your book. These points interest me. Fergie begged to borrow $50,000 to $100,000 to help with small bills. She really does seem to have a problem, because she obviously would have had money by that stage, wouldn't she?
Yes, and absolutely, and $50,000 isn't shouldn't be covering small bills. So what are these bills? She continued to lead this very extravagant life with extensive stuff, first class travel and hotels and nice holidays when she didn't get freebies. She was living on the hog, and often it was on the other people's money. There's a famous episode with Lily Marty, I think, who's now the Dowager Duchess of Marlborough, where she borrowed £100,000 just to pay for a 2-week party in the south of France, a holiday, and then only gave her £5,000 back on the assumption that it was a present. And this happens time and time again. Same, I've got so many stories from dress designers who lent her frocks and then she didn't never return them. So, she's just totally immoral, and she just was, took advantage of anyone she could. And I think you made the point that, whether they were rich or poor, she would screw them. Borrowing off her staff, not paying the butcher and the news agent and stuff. This isn't chaos. This is someone who cynically thinks that she can get away with it, and these people don't matter, like Leonora Helmsley.
True.
So, but I mean, exactly. I mean, why? I mean, I'd love to see her bank statements, to see what was coming in and what was going out. I mean, we'll never see those, of course, but, there should be real financial investigations into them. I mean, that's what the royal family should have been doing. And if they had nothing to hide, they would have made their stuff available.
For sure.
I think it's interesting, there she is. I mean, she must have known what went on the island, and there she is. Wanting to go there, another freebie holiday.
Sick. Just
You know,
sick. And also the fact that she took Beatrice and Eugenie to be one of the first when he got out of prison. And you're thinking, you're standing there with your daughters. You've stayed at his place. You would have seen the, the art,
yep.
and the very obvious what was going on in the naked girls in the pool and all those sorts of things. And there's just this really weird disconnect that girls are being exploited that are exactly the same age as her daughters.
Yeah. Well, also, and there she is, promoting herself as a champion of trafficked women. This is just part of the sick cynicism of the way they operate.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it is extraordinary that she'd want to go there. And again, all those pictures with P. Diddy and Peter Nygaard and all these other sex offenders.
Yeah.
Those poor girls probably know more sex offenders than the police service.
Yeah, this is the ghostwriter, Amy Wallace, for Virginia's book, and she actually came out with an article today. I noticed a comment when I was waiting to go on from one of the people in the chat saying, oh, why can't you let Virginia rest in peace? And that sort of puts paid to that because Wallace said, I can't speak for Virginia and I wish she was here to speak for herself because it's not normal for ghostwriters to be promoting a book. It's not the position she wanted to be in. Having worked alongside her for 4 years, I can say that it was her fervent wish that all the men she was trafficked were brought to justice. And so there's the answer. Virginia wanted this to all come out and she wants to focus on it. Now, you told us about this in your book about the American news network ABC actually having their program axed due to pressure from the royal family. And after Prince Andrew's, ridiculous statement yesterday, I got the impression that the royal family doesn't really give a damn about Virginia Giuffre or any of the victims. They didn't even rate a mention, did they?
No. I mean, I think the point I make in my Sunday Times piece, and I think you made, and also in your podcast, is if this should have come from the king. He should have taken the lead here. I mean, we shouldn't be giving a voice to Andrew in this. It should have, and just as in the Newsnight interview, it should have started with the victims. This is all about the victims. It's not about Andrew, and very honorably giving up things. It's actually about a pretty sick individual actually being brought to justice.
Yeah.
I hope, we're only halfway there. I hope we kind of nail him.
I noticed that the Telegraph is helping to feed the misinformation. I'll try to bring it up. Oh, I wanted to show this photograph just quickly. This is Virginia on the far right. Interestingly, this is at Naomi Campbell's 31st birthday. This was part of the article with Amy Wallace. What fascinates me about this is she's got the same jeans that she had on the night that she met Prince Andrew. Now, this, I looked up the timeline, and this is just after she had that meeting with Prince Andrew, the afternoon tea party, talking about Beatrice and Eugenie, and the photograph at Ghislaine Maxwell's townhouse. But when you look at that photograph, a lot of those people are only in their 30s, early 30s. Look how young she looks compared to them, and they're only in their early 30s. And I wanted to put that up because there's a lot of photographs of Virginia much older. But when you really see how, very, very young
just a
she
young girl,
was.
a young
She
girl. I mean, it's
was.
appalling. I know. I mean, it's heartbreaking when you see it.
It is.
And it's. I mean, what was she doing there? I mean, they must have wondered, some of these 30-year-olds. What is she doing at this party when she's so young? Who has she come with? What's the purpose of her being there?
And she looks so
she's not
awkward in that photo. She looks
Yeah.
so awkward.
Yeah, no, it's a very poignant story. We've forgotten because we see her as this great fighter later on, and actually having put on weight and stuff. But this was a little waif, really, who they just picked up and played with.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is what I was saying about the Telegraph feeding the misinformation. You and I know pretty much instantly that Andrew hasn't given up anything. He's just agreed to not use his titles to let the heat go out of the situation. Telegraph put this out today. On Friday, the King decided enough was enough and did what the late Queen had never been able to bring herself do by making his brother give up the dukedom. Now, that is not what happened.
No, of
And
course not.
so there's this spin, and I don't want to pick on the Telegraph, but
Son are doing it as well. There are
Really.
other papers are doing it as well.
Sickening,
Yeah.
sickening. That the spin is just so blatant. I really think they think people are absolutely stupid. This is your article, Secrecy has shrouded the royals for far too long. Now, you make a point in this article that, really is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see a lot more. And I know you know just how much of a tip of an iceberg it is. I know you can't tell me due to legal reasons because it's stuff that's been taken out of your book and hopefully will be back in the paperback. But is there something that hasn't come out yet that you really think will be the death knell, even worse than what we're seeing now?
Yes. Well, I mean, there's sort of three lots of things, which in some ways is the tip of the iceberg. One is that I just know that there must be lots more material because I've only been able to get a certain number of people to talk, a certain number of leaks, a certain number of court cases, and so much of the stuff has gone under the radar, and people. So unless those people come forward, we'll probably never know. But just on the basis of the way he operated, there must be so much stuff. Then there's the stuff, as you say, that's been taken out for legal reasons, and I hope some of that stuff may be restored. A good example is some of the material on Peter Mandelson now that he's been outed. And in fact, Blair has just been mentioned. And so there's Blair material that could go in. And then, of course, there's the new stuff that's coming in literally each day. Thanks to I mean, we've got Coco P through your good auspices coming forward and giving us a story about Fergie in New York. So there's new stuff coming out as a result of publicity, which is some pretty damning stuff. I think the shocking stuff that will come is the degree of corruption. The bribes that were taken by Andrew in his job as special trade envoy, bribes that were known about by politicians and indeed by the intelligence services, which were reported to the palace and nothing was done. And I think once those stories come out about the degree of financial corruption and the connivance of the institution to protect Andrew, which has always been their how they've operated, I think that will be pretty damning. And this is why I think this story is growing and growing. It's not just about Andrew, it's about the royal family itself, its role in modern society and how it should behave, and about the way that other members of the royal family, not just Andrew, have abused their position and been allowed to do it through the support of the institution. So I think this thing is snowballing, and that's why they need to get a grip of the situation.
I think it is snowballing. I feel a degree of frustration because it's the financial revelations in your book that I think is, it's always, the mob who always gets brought down by racketeering. And I always thought that it was the financial aspects of your book that would actually end up in some form of legal action. You still haven't heard from the National Crime Authority?
Well, I do know that private prosecution is being brought against Andrew under the Misconduct in Public Office Act. They've taken legal advice, and there is a case there. I have offered to feed them material, and so we may see some development there. I'm certainly going to be pressing for investigations. I mean, maybe this weekend think that we have reached a tipping point there, and pressure, I hope, from the media and indeed parliamentarians will lead to investigations into both Sarah and Andrew, and that they will make themselves available to the FBI and to the victims' lawyers. Now, I know a lot of the cases clearly are not going on, but I think just as a piece of human decency, they should be talking to the lawyers about exactly what they saw, and actually maybe backing up some of the statements that the victims have said, or showing in some ways they support what's happening, even if it may incriminate themselves. That would be something, because they're still denying, they're still not speaking to the press. Sarah, who's normally so garrulous and happy to go in any chat show, has refused in every case where she's been pinned down on something to make a comment. I think the extraordinary thing is she still has PR advisors like Kate Waddington working for her. Kate Waddington, who for many years wasn't paid. I just find that extraordinary that these people are sticking in there. So, I mean, she still has a team of people, and maybe we're waiting for the great reveal and she'll turn on Oprah and she'll have had cancer again and terrible things will happen to her, and we're all meant to feel sorry for her. But I think, the Salman Turk thing, which I think you've highlighted, alone itself should have been investigated. I think Gate Ventures was, her involvement there, she needs to come clean about that. So there are just so many skeletons there that she needs to address, and I don't think the public will be happy about either of them until they actually begin to tell us the truth about not just the Epstein revelations, but their own financial operations.
I'm glad you brought up about the Salman Turk thing, because that was my hesitation with the palace so quickly to embrace Beatrice and Eugenie, because they should wait, I would think, to see for all the revelations that may come out. I mean, even inadvertently, although the girls are both adults now, I think they would be fairly aware the contacts they have made through the auspices of their father and mother. And, I just think it's so silly for the palace to make basically an announcement that nothing will change for them. They can come for Christmas and they're much loved members of the family, blah, blah, blah. And you're saying, well, you still haven't given us a reasonable explanation for why the girls received money from Salman Turk. I mean,
well, I was told to lay off the girls, and but I'm not going to in the paperback. I mean, I think there is so much damaging information about both of them. Everyone says they're lovely, sweet girls, but there is so much stuff. I mean, I think just looking at comments, people have kind of guessed that, and they see what's going on with the support of Saudi banks and stuff. So I'm not going to pull my punches in the paperback on the daughters, and and I have been saying that very openly, in the hope that maybe the royal family are listening to you. I'm sure they're subscribers, and that they will perhaps just pull back a bit, because I think they're going to get themselves into an embarrassing position when they discover what the girls have been up to.
Do you think that, I mean, there's been quite a bit of backlash against King Charles. People are frustrated. I think I heard you say the other day when you were saying that it was William that was put pressure on King Charles. Also, the government put pressure. And I'm going to ask you a question about that.
Yep.
You said King William was, sick of his father faffing around. Do you think that the king should step aside in order to just allow William and Catherine to ascend to the throne and allow them to have clean air, and put a line in the sand between that sort of sordid mess that is of that generation?
Well, I think William wants his father to clean out the stables before he comes there, so he has it's a clean slate.
Right.
And the king, even the spin is the king, didn't meet with Andrew. It was a 10-minute phone call. He hates confrontation. So even if the king did all this, was the front man. I mean, the pressure, as I said, is coming from William. I think other people are saying that. What other people haven't realized, and I've been told by a source, is it was the government, and the government concerned about Andrew's Chinese spy links. And those were what was concerning them, because otherwise they wouldn't care about family affairs. So that Chinese thing was quite important, and that's the thing that the Telegraph have been running on. I've talked about Johnny Hon in the book. We had to take a lot of stuff out on Johnny Hon, but I keep suggesting to journalists they should be looking at Johnny Hon, very close connections to the North Korean and Chinese governments. And who's ingratiated himself into the royal family. He was offering Christmas lunch with Prince Philip, lots and lots of pictures with Zara Phillips and Beatrice and others. I mean, that's back to the children again. But yes, I mean, I think that the problem is that William isn't ready to step up. He's still got a young family. He's got a sick wife, but he's clearly, calling more of the shots now and being consulted. So we are in this transitional phase. The king, I think I've said it pretty openly, is much, I think Tom has been saying it, is much iller than people realize. And that we do need to prepare ourselves for possibly a change, sooner than everyone expects. And Charles is not a well man. I mean, he doesn't look well. I think there's a sense of now I think Tom's put this very well, he's now interested more in legacy than in governance. He's trying to sort of, get his relationship with Harry sorted out, etc., and be able to pass the baton on to William. So I think William's going to have to step up sooner than he would like, or may have realized. But we're not moving into a sort of regency, but I think we are moving to William being a much more important figure. But, it would be very easy to sort out the problems. I think in my article, actually, I think it may be cut, but the Constitution Unit at London University did a study of what modern monarchies should be doing. And one of the arguments is that they need to basically clean out the hangers-on who kind of bring it all down. So, and that was several years ago. So, I mean, if the palace had, were looking at these things, and you would think they should do, they could have. There were various models there for them to learn from. But I think, that the problem is the royal family never seems to learn from any of the previous mistakes. They keep repeating them.
No, they don't. They don't. I found it very interesting, too, to read a little snippet, and it was about the fact that part of the impetus for, the king supposedly acting, although we know now that he probably really wasn't a major factor in any of this happening, was the fact that he was worried about, not having clean air for his trip next week to with the Pope, and I thought that sort of exposes a bit of a pattern, because I have been looking into a lot of this, and the pattern seems to be with Charles that when it affects him, he acts. And, it could be argued that when it's affecting people like Virginia Giuffre, or affecting all the people that didn't have their bills paid, or, you know what I mean? It doesn't sort of get them going until it actually affects them.
Yes, a lot of jealousy. I mean, I don't think anyone had realized he was going to the Vatican next week. I mean, most people. But what they did see each day were these terrible headlines about Andrew, and the comments below saying Charles must act. He's very weak. And I think that's what spurred this on, and the knowledge that there were more, like leaked emails from Ghislaine, I think from Ghislaine Maxwell coming out. That's the obvious source. And, they didn't necessarily know what was in the Virginia Giuffre book. So, this was a sort of preparation. But it's just, why they weren't doing this months ago, years ago, is very weird. But clearly, I think someone put their foot down, and I'm told it's William.
Right. Well, I'm glad. We've got a strong leader coming up through the ranks. There's a few comments here. We should go to a few comments, seeing people have been so patient. I saw one that I thought was just funny and nice, so I thought I would share it. Andrew Lownie for PM.
Oh, thank you.
Have you ever had any political aspirations, Andrew?
I did stand for Parliament in 1992.
Oh, did you?
I did, yes.
I had no
I
idea.
realized what a terrible life it would be, and I just would be a terrible person doing all the stuff. But yes, once upon a time I was an idealist.
Oh, well, yes. I can see that you wouldn't be attracted to that life, actually. You'd tell the truth too much. You wouldn't last.
Exactly.
I think you are unfairly critical of King Charles. This is me, I presume, Sheila. He has now done what you've been insisting he should. Andrew and Harry have the potential to embarrass and damage the monarchy. Handle with care. But he hasn't done what everybody wanted him to do, has he?
No, he hasn't done enough. And, it's all been, a 10-minute phone call. He's done what he hopes might be enough.
Yeah,
but it isn't.
What they can get away with.
Opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Keep going. If you can just keep chatting.
Yes. Well, Fergie is not a good mother. I mean, she keeps saying it, and people kind of believe it, and some of the commentators sort of sprout this stuff. But if you talk to the parents at the schools, she just wasn't around. Neither of them were around. And you talk to some of the staff, again, same thing. In public, she tries to give the impression when they were very young, and she talks about them a lot. But exactly, she was touting them around, and she was very controlling. I have a story which about the children and their mother, which I'm sort of debating whether to use because of the taste factor, but which reflects her as not being a good mother. I think we need to get rid of this myth that she was a good mother, a global mother. She's very good. It's exactly like Edwina Mountbatten, in that she wasn't a brilliant mother to her two daughters, but she was this global mother to as a humanitarian. There is an element there, how people are sometimes better with other people's children than they are with their own.
Yeah, because it's performative, presumably. That's why, because they've got an
Yes,
audience. So we're left with the situation that Andrew is still a councillor of state. We're left with the situation he's still in Royal Lodge. He's still on the Royal Family website. One of the people in the chat made the point that even as of today, he's still listed on the Royal Family website as the Duke of York. It's those sloppy sort of things that don't get handled. And I mean, any professional outfit would have ensured that the website was updated before the announcement was made,
exactly.
even, or at
Exactly.
least at the same time. So,
Yeah.
do you think we're going to get anything significant as far as council estate goes, or turfing him out of Royal Lodge? Do you think anything real is going to happen?
I hope so, and I think it will. Yes, I mean, I think there's enough. Looking at the papers, I think everyone is much more emboldened now than they were to speak out, and I think the palace is on the back foot, and I think we'll have the same thing. They'll kind of hold off a little bit longer, and then they'll be forced to do something. They have these reputation management people there, and the first rule is get ahead of it, and kill it. And they're not doing that, I'm afraid. They're lancing the ball by doing a few little pinpricks on the corners. Yes, I think we will see him out of Royal Lodge, and I think we will see some of these things going, including him being a prince. They hired a lot of those sycophant journalists are saying, "Oh, well, he's born it can't be done." Anything can be done. A letters patent, can be easily done.
Yes.
So if you want to do them. And I think they're going to be pushed into a position where they're going to have to do something in order to protect themselves.
Yes, I think we'll leave it on that note. Are you prepared to come back tomorrow?
Yes, very happy. And who knows what more there may be to say by tomorrow.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll look forward to that. I've got to let Andrew go because he is in high demand. So I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining us.
See you then.
Bye,
Thanks
everybody. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Bye.